thank you so much. It's a profound honor to be here. I'm speaking about a subject that's really close to my heart. And it started in about 2021 when the world was focused on Queen Elizabeth II, who was very ill and on her deathbed. May she rest in peace. But I started thinking, wonderful that, she's done a lot in her life, but it made me think, here in Africa, in our continent, surely we have to have a history of women doing phenomenal things. And that thought sparked off a chain of events that's led me to this point. I thought that possibly I might find a handful of queens, actual living African queens. Well, I'm nearing the count of 40, all right? It's phenomenal. So what I'm sharing with you is just the first, I think, 11 that I've researched and that I've painted. So I want to start off by saying that the subject reveals not just forgotten truths, it reignites a vital source of inspiration for men and women. It's the legacy of African queens. History is always written by the victors, and sadly, the victors are often male. So we are in the kind of classical historical narrative that we're learning at schools. We're learning one that is largely colonial and always patriarchal. And I need to stress that the fact that women have been ignored in our history books isn't because women weren't insignificant. Not that they were insignificant, but that they have been erased from history. And it's interesting because you'll see each queen is known for her immediate country, her immediate people, but it's not mainstream knowledge. So powerful women have reigned across this country, and I think their lives challenge us to redefine what leadership is. Leadership is not necessarily violent, vicious, in your face. Leadership can be courageous, wise, resolute, even nurturing. And I want to honor these queens. So I'm going to just give you a really, really quick run through. All right, I can normally speak for 13 minutes on each queen, and then you still have to shut me up. So I did go one too far. So I love that I've met quite a few people here from Nigeria. And the little talk that I'm going to give you now is chronological. So from the furthest back, which is Queen Moremi, and it's just sheer coincidence that the first three queens are all from areas that now land in Nigeria. So here's to Nigeria. Queen Moremi of Il-Ife Kingdom, which is in the far north of Nigeria, through bravery and sacrifice, she exposed raiders that were kidnapping people and stealing produce at monthly markets, but they were disguised as forest spirits. And she actually went to the river goddess, Isimarim. I've given her eyes looking out from the river, to ask for wise counsel. And the result of the long and fabulous story is that she managed to save her people, and in so doing, she restored the culture and identity, or she rather retained the identity of her people. And you'll see today in Il-Ife, there is a 40-foot tall statue called the Queen Moremi Statue of Liberty that celebrates her accomplishments. The painting itself is in the room at the moment, and her face has been modeled on this particular Benin bronze. Then there's Queen Idia of Benin City. And don't be confused, when the countries were demarcated, Benin City is actually in Nigeria. And we're going to see Queen Idia, and her portrait is this beautiful mask carved in bronze that her son commissioned to be painted of her. So we have a fair idea of what she actually looked like. She was a spiritual and political strategist, and she ensured through her dealings that her son Isigi would claim the king position. And in so doing, she established the institution of the Ayoba, or the Queen Mother. Up until this point, the Queen Mother would be executed so that she could have no further offspring. But he loved his mother so much, and it was because of her that he actually got to the position that he changed the rules. So in so doing, she changed the entire lineage of royalty in what is now Nigeria. She led troops, she wielded mystical influence, and she ushered in an artistic and commercial renaissance, still evident in the ivory carvings and the Benin bronzes, most of which sadly are in England, right? Yes. Then there is, I've skipped one, hold on. Oh, okay, sorry, Amina got lost. We have jumped to Queen Nzinga of the Ndongo. In what is modern-day Angola, she was born in 1583, and she resisted Portuguese colonialism, and she resisted slave trade for more than 33 years. She did that through diplomacy and through astute, she was an incredible diplomat, but she was also a guerrilla fighter. Well into her 60s, she realized that the only way that she was actually going to find traction in this war was through guerrilla tactics. And as far as we know, she was one of the first guerrilla fighters. Her example is a symbol of African resistance and sovereignty, and her life story inspired Angola's independence movement centuries later. We actually know pretty much what she looked like because the painting on the far left was done by an Italian Capuchin monk who met her a few years before she died, and he painted her with the crown which she designed herself. It's a long story, but part of the deal with the Portuguese was to convert to Christianity. And that's a fair indication of what she looked like. And that's what the painting of her is based on. Then we have Queen Tassi Hongbe of the Dahomey Kingdom. The Dahomey Kingdom is now known as the Republic of Benin. And Queen Tassi Hongbe only became a queen because she had a twin brother, Akaba. And they were fighting a battle together, and during this battle, Akaba was killed. So Tassi donned her brother's armor and continued leading the troops, and they won the battle. She simply continued leading them for the next 3 years until somebody figured out that she's actually a woman, and they gave the title to her younger brother. But in those 3 years, she was phenomenal. It is alleged, but I think it was definitely her, and I won't put that in the book, but it is alleged that she formed what is known as the Oguchi, or Les Amazones, the Amazon all-woman fighting army, and I think she did that as her personal bodyguards, because only the Oguchi were allowed in the palace. Oguchi were women who were very well trained in war. They weren't allowed to get married, but because they had the privileged position of being her private bodyguards, they could live in the palace. They were allowed to have their own slaves. They were allowed to trade in slaves. So they had the ability to be self-governing, which wasn't the case for the average woman at all. I don't want to go too far off track, but I do want to say that even today, there's a monument that I visited in Cotonou, and there's an image of it. A human being, there's no human being in this picture, but a human being stands about yay high. It's one of the tallest sculptures. It's a 30-meter tall monument called the Amazon Monument in Cotonou. Okay. So now for something completely different. This actual painting is in the back of the hall, and my daughter modeled for me, and very gamely allowed me to put mud over her face. Queen Bessie, and I'm going to do this injustice, but she was also called Roma, which means roar of the sea. She was 7 years old, a little British girl on a ship that got shipwrecked near Port St. John's, and there were only 3 survivors. There was little Bessie, and there were 2 adults who were unrelated to her, and she was taken in by the Chomani people, She grew up to be a wise queen. She ended up marrying the paramount chief Sango. And her reign was fortuitously very, very beneficial. It was just before Shaka's troops started putting pressure on the Chomani and they had to relocate and move further south. So it was believed that she brought good luck at that time, which is a very, very beautiful, just the way it all worked out. But her memory endures today still through ancestral prayers and the living descendants amongst the Abalunga in the Eastern Cape who have blue eyes. It was a strange thing. Her and Sango had numerous children, all with blue eyes. Queen Nandi. We all know Queen Nandi. She's considered one of the greatest single mothers of all time. Zulu Kingdom, South Africa, born in 1766 and died in 1827. She was the mother, of course, of Shaka Zulu. She endured exile and social stigma with resilience, and her guidance and wisdom shaped one of Africa's most formidable leaders, Shaka, whose real name, incidentally, and I've got it written down, and please forgive my pronunciation, his real name was Sigidi Kasenzanga Kona. Lungi, am I pronouncing it right? Not too bad. Lungi is the model for this painting. I'm always proud to show you off. So we know Shaka was ruthless, he was ambitious, he extended the borders of his kingdom exponentially, and it's believed that she was a force for moderation in his life. She remains a powerful symbol of motherhood, political counsel, and endurance. Queen Ranavalona I of Madagascar. So there's a lot of European texts about her that vilify her. But the reason they vilified her is that she was one of the most successful queens against colonialization. For 30 years, she foiled the attempts of the British and the French troops to colonize Madagascar. So she hated foreigners, but as you can see, she loved the foreign fashions. Didn't stop her. This image is an etching that I found of her. And it's very interesting. You can see by her features the first peoples that populated Madagascar were not from Africa, but they were from Indonesia. Very interesting side fact. And she actually came across a shipwrecked engineer, Jean Lebord, from France. It was one of the few foreigners that she kept alive. And with his help, she actually initiated the first known industrial revolution that occurred outside of Europe. And she was very well fortified. So the troops would land on the beaches and storm the tree line, and then just within the tree line there would be these very well fortified forts, and they would just decimate these British and French troops. And then their heads would be put on pikes on the beach to deter those who might think to follow. There's a lot more gruesome information about her, and if you want the juicy facts, you'll have to see the book. Queen Mother Ya Asantewaa of the Ashanti Empire, which is modern-day Ghana, with her legendary declaration, "If the men won't fight, we the women will," she led 5,000 troops in the Battle of the Golden Stool. As Queen Mother, it was her job to protect the Golden Stool, and the Golden Stool was a stool that never got sat on. It is a symbol of the soul of the Ashanti tribe, the Ashanti people. And of course the British governor, Sir Frederick Hodgson, insisted that he be allowed to sit on it, and therefore it would be a symbol of subjugation of her people. And she refused. She said, "We can't allow that, we need to fight." Sadly, of course, they lost that final battle. She was captured and she was exiled, where her son had already been exiled to the Seychelles, and she died there in 1921. Queen Hongbe V of the Republic of Benin is the first living queen that I have come across. And she is a direct descendant of Queen Tassi Hongbe that I spoke about earlier, who established the Oguchi army. Now, it's very interesting that today the tradition of the Oguchi, it continues. And you can't see it so well because the photograph has chopped it off. But in this last photograph, here she is, and her Oguchi's holding the symbol of sovereignty, the umbrella over her head. I was very fortunate to be part of a small South African delegation led by Ambassador Rabina Marks to go and visit Queen Hongbe V. And she cannot speak English and she refuses to speak French, so she only speaks Fan. Moi, je peux parler français, mais non, je peux pas parler le Fan. So we had an interpreter. And I was only allowed to ask her one question. So my one question to her was, today that there's no more battles being fought, what role do your Oguchi serve? And she said, we fight inequality. And inequality is rife in modern day Benin. So she's really the first bringing together tradition and modernity, and she's a living homage to her lineage. Our last queen is Queen Puleng Malloy of the Makoloku. It's one of the Basotho clans. Her husband, let me just get his name right here, his husband was Chief Matla Henry Malloy, descended from the royal line of King Mokgatla Tabane. And yeah, I got to meet her too. She was trained and educated as a teacher. She was a teacher for many years, and then later in her life, she formed a taxi industry. She was born in Soweto, and for many years ran a taxi industry. So as an educator and an entrepreneur, she's also a mentor. She empowers women through training in leadership, business, and royal etiquette. She's kind of the head honcho of the royal queens. As an educated professional, she is a stand for the upliftment and empowerment of her people, particularly its women. And her reign blends tradition and modernity, offering a model for royal relevance in a changing South Africa. These women are mothers, fighters of the slave trade, foilers of colonialism. They're pillars of strength and symbols of hope. Their stories are embedded in the very fabric of African identity, in the dances, in the poems, in the songs, in the statues, the oral traditions, and in the consciousness of those who live and lead today. And by reclaiming their stories, we rewrite history. African womanhood is not one of silence or simply side support. It's a story of sovereignty and strength. Many battles continue for today's women against inequality, injustice, invisibility. But with these queens as their guiding lights, as icons of resistance, prosperity, and peace, African queens remind us that power wears many faces. One of them is definitely female. Thank you so much.
Thank
you so much,
Chantel.
sweetheart.
Thank you.
Thank you.
And I first told the story in Singapore.
Yes.
About the African queens on the Rotary International stage. And I want to say I'm honored to have you in the room. Thank you, Chantal.
Thank you so much.
And just a little
wonderful.
token of our appreciation.
Oh,
Thank you.
too. That's
and
wonderful.
Please continue to enjoy the beautiful artwork.
Thank you.